Chapter 236 is among the most intriguing chapters of the past couple of years, not just in the context of Jujutsu Kaisen, but the manga medium in general. The community hasn't been the same since then. I mean, you know something is up when r/Jujutsu folk of all subreddits becomes the most active anime sub on Reddit. Gojo's death rubbed the fandom the wrong way. It's not even about his death. We knew Sukuna would win. It's that Gojo's death seems meaningless. Sukuna is still completely fine. Rip to all those theories about how Gojo will weaken Sukuna and then the gang would jump him. No, instead we have Sukuna checking off the boxes. First Gojo, and then in a couple of more chapters he also kills Kashimo. I don't know, it's something about love, I guess? Though, what if there was an alternate reality where Gojo's death happens in a different way? What if rather than choosing south, as chapter 236 suggested, Gojo actually went north? The choice was between starting anew or returning to your old self. Gojo chose south and never came back. He's dead, and that's all there is to it. Now, before we begin this alternate scenario, make sure you press that like and subscribe button. Let the algorithm know that you want more of these spicy Jujutsu Kaisen videos. Alright, with that said, let's begin our What If Gojo Went North story. The thing about the current situation in the manga is that even though Gojo did so well against Sukuna, the King of Curses is still unharmed for the most part. The king simply undid all the damage. This in turn makes Gojo's sacrifice or even the fight itself irrelevant, because the protagonists are still in the same situation as they were before. Which is honestly quite sad because no one wanted Gojo to go out like this. It isn't even about who should have won or who's stronger. It's just weird for Gojo to go out like this, especially after all the build-up and blue-balling that preceded this fight. But anyways, let's say we're still in chapter 236. Nanami gaslights Gojo into thinking that he's a horrible person, but then a few panels later, he mentions that line. If you want to start anew, head north. If you want to return to your old self, head south. One thing we have to keep in mind here is that Gojo is still at the airport. It's a transition to the afterlife and not the afterlife itself, which means that he is not completely dead yet. This is also evident with how when Sukuna states that he will never forget him for the rest of his life, we actually see Gojo's facial expression change. He smiles. Yeah, exactly. When he was having that conversation at the airport, Gojo was not dead yet. This is also why some Jujutsu Kaisen fans still haven't run out of hopium. They believe Gojo will return. I'm sorry guys, but it's too late. The title of chapter 236 is Going South, which cements Gojo's death. However, what if instead of going south, he went north? This is how it's going to go. As Kashimo enters the chat and his fight with Sukuna begins, Gojo's upper body moves. He's a dead man, but that is what makes him so dangerous in this situation. We know that at that point in the fight, Gojo was unable to perform domain expansion. His brain had run out of gas, I guess. But the thing about death is that it releases a surge of chemicals which heightens your senses into a state of hyperreality. Unlimited void! Gojo capitalizes on that by unleashing his domain expansion. Keep in mind that we're not reviving Gojo, not at all. He is still a mere instance away from death, but before breathing his last, he unleashes unlimited void for 0.2 seconds and drags Sukuna into it. Kashimo also gets dragged, but he is irrelevant. This is ultimately bad news for Sukuna because unlike Gojo, who is pretty much performing a miracle while literally experiencing death, Sukuna is still out of gas for his own domain expansion. Plus, Gojo's domain happens right when he was in the middle of his transformation. Yep, Gojo's domain caught Sukuna slacking. He was in the middle of his transformation, but now he is getting hit with all the endless information all at the same time. He has been pulled into a state of complete trance. He can't use Mahorage either, by the way, because Gojo has already defeated that dude. Unfortunately, Kashimo also has to suffer the same, but Gojo isn't after him. He's after Megumi. As a man who sees the universe in terms of mass, speed, and energy, this is the perfect moment to finally free Megumi from Sukuna, and he does exactly that. He enters Sukuna's inner domain and stands right next to Megumi's soul. Megumi is all caught up, just experiencing existential dread. He is definitely not in his healthiest state of mind. How can he be? Sukuna literally had to destroy his will to live so that he could take over completely as the new host of Megumi's body. He lifts his head and sees Gojo. Gojo smiles for the last time, gives him a thumbs up, and disappears from sight. He dies that very instant. Unlimited Void ends. Sukuna's incarnation is completed. But as for Megumi, he finds himself separated from Sukuna. You see, if Gojo goes out like this, he would have at least made a difference. Yuta, Yuji, and the others enter the chat immediately to get Megumi out of the scene. Yuta uses the reverse curse technique to fix him up, but of course, the mental devastation would still require some time to heal. As for Gojo, we see him in the afterlife again, this time for real. Oh, how did it go? Geto asks. I was about to tell him about his father, but meh, ran out of time, Gojo replies. Well, as you said, Shoka will tell him. But it's not like he wants to know anyway, Geto adds. Yeah, I guess you're right. If you really wanted to know, I would have told him a long time ago, Gojo replies. As Gojo says this, someone shows up right behind him. It's not that important, he says. Gojo and Geto both immediately turn around. It's Dio. Toji Fushiguro. Gojo starts laughing. How is this development going to change the direction of the story? It's hard to tell because we haven't seen much since Kashimo died. At this point in the story, there is really no telling how the gang is going to defeat Sukuna. Can Yuji do it with Higuruma? Can the power of law and fists really defeat the King of Curses? That's the question, but honestly, I can easily see Sukuna somehow escaping all the allegations. The dude is just too smart and unhinged. But the thing we have to note in this what-if scenario is that Yuji intervenes. He's the one who uses reverse curse technique on Megumi and helps Megumi get back in proper physical shape, especially after all the damage Gojo did while fighting Sukuna. Which means he won't be jumping Kenjaku as we saw in chapter 243. This is going to lead to a different ending, as taking down Kenjaku is more important, so do let me know y'all's thoughts on this. How would the story continue if this alternative scenario took place and Gojo had his Jiraiya moment? And what do you think of the actual story? Come on guys, let's talk about it all in the comments section down below. And as always, remember to kick that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Well then, with that said, I'll see y'all in the next video. Ja ne!